Alito told a Notre Dame law school audience that the court has been wrongly cast as a dangerous cabal, deciding important issues in a novel, secretive, improper way, in the middle of the night. He and other justices newly speaking out have condemned the news media for playing up the significance of the court's September 1 decision that allowed an abortion ban after about 6 weeks of pregnancy to take effect. But as dissenting justices wrote, the decision undermined the court's precedent on abortion rights dating back nearly a half-century. And the impact on the ability to obtain abortions in Texas is undeniable. Rarely have so many justices uttered such provocative, off-the-bench comments at the same time.
Some are at cross purposes, but they all highlight the potential for declining confidence in America's highest court. Public opinion polls and new congressional scrutiny reinforce a possible new threat to the court's reputation and legitimacy.
There is going to be a lot of disappointment in the law, a huge amount. Justice Sonia Sotomayor
Each Wednesday. The gulf between the justices is not unlike the differences between red and blue America. A disconnect also exists between the conservative majority and the public. Gallup reported that the court's job approval rating had dropped 9 points since July, to 40% of Americans approving of the job the justices are doing.
That poll was conducted in early September after the order declining to block the Texas abortion law.
It also had rejected Biden administration initiatives on U.S. asylum policy and an eviction moratorium during the pandemic. Other recent polls have shown that fewer than one-third of Americans want Roe v. Wade, the 1973 decision that legalized abortion nationwide, overturned.
The court's image and institutional acceptance may matter even more in the weeks ahead, as the justices
take a new session that includes continued abortion rights disputes, a test of Second Amendment rights and gun regulation, and a controversy over public aid for religious schools. No more ordinary speeches.
The speeches of Supreme Court justices tend to be rooted in history and broad legal themes and
inspirational. They usually shun talk of cases or current events. Most avoid politics. Justice Amy Coney Barrett's address at the University of Louisville's McConnell Center in early September stood out, and not only because it was the newest justice's first major appearance since her confirmation last year.
She was introduced by Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who had a strong hand in shaping the
Supreme Court. The Kentucky Republican blocked then-President Barack Obama's 2016 nomination of Merrick Garland, saying the presidential election year precluded Senate action on a Supreme Court nominee. 4 years later, after Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, McConnell ensured that Barrett was confirmed just days before the 2020 election. My goal today is to convince you that the court is not comprised of a bunch of partisan hacks, Barrett told the
audience. The media, along with hot takes on Twitter, report the results of decisions, she said, according to local media reports at a speech where no audio or video recordings were allowed. It leaves the reader to judge whether the court was right or wrong based on whether she liked the
Justice Clarence Thomas, also a conservative, struck a similar theme against the news media.
He spoke to a Notre Dame law school audience last month. I think the media makes it sound as though you are just always going right to your personal preferences, Thomas said. If they think you're anti-abortion or something personally, they think that's the way you'll always come out.
Justice Stephen Breyer, who has been promoting a new book in a round of interviews, has focused
on how long it took the court to build public confidence over the decades. The senior liberal has urged audiences not to take such confidence for granted. He also had urged people not to see the justices as junior varsity politicians.
Breyer, too, has criticized journalists and politicians for identifying justice
presidents who appointed them in their political parties. The Bill Clinton appointee also argues that the current 6-3 split at the High Court does not reflect politics or ideology but rather jurisprudential methods.
On today's court, however, all 6 conservatives were appointed by Republican presidents,
and liberals were appointed by Democratic presidents. In earlier eras, alignments did not break as neatly along political lines. Decisions in closely watched cases often follow the familiar lines. In the 2020-21 term, the 6 conservative justices narrowed the reach of the 1965 Voting Rights Act and ruled against union organizers on agricultural land. The recent disputes regarding abortion, the eviction moratorium and asylum policy also split the justices largely by ideological and political affiliation.
The shadow docket of all the recent remarks by justices, Alito's were the most pointed and
It is unusual for a justice to engage in such an extended public defense of internal procedures. Such cases are resolved without full briefings or oral arguments, often without any public explanations or recorded votes. They sometimes come late at night, such as the Texas order, which was issued at midnight September 1st. Alito tried to make the case that critics had wrongly cast the justice's handling of emergency requests as sinister and justices threatening. He said they act in the dead of night because filings come to them
handling of
emergency requests. Alito also scoffed at attention members of Congress were putting on the so-called shadow docket and the Texas case. Senate Judiciary Chairman Dick Durbin
Alito
holding a hearing on Wednesday,
scoffed at attention that he was members of
skeptical of justices of Congress assertions that politics
were putting on the
do not influence their actions.
So called shadow
Durbin, an
docket
Illinois Democrat,
and the text served this case.
That during the Trump years the High Court and
docket
Illinois Democrat,
and the text served this case.
That during the Trump years the High Court
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe